Romancing Saga 2 is a Super Nintendo game, Super Famicom game from the 90s, but now it's getting an entire remake, and it doesn't look like it's just a facelift either. This is a total remake on the level of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but of course without the same massive budget. Not many people get that sort of budget. That doesn't mean this is a game you should sleep on, especially if you're into non-linear RPGs. Romancing Saga is one of the games that really subverted the genre in an interesting way, and that shows through gameplay mechanics, story mechanics, and will make itself very obvious as you play. The original game put you in the shoes of the evil emperor that you experience fighting in most other JRPGs, except you're the good guy, and the heroes are the bad guys, and that means you start with all sorts of resources. How much of this will stay the same in the remake is hard to say, but they've said they're planning on staying pretty faithful to the original. There's a really great write-up that was put on the Square Enix website that talks all about what they've put into the game, which I'll put a link to below, and I'll be kind of referencing as I go through this. What they have said is that they will be keeping the lineage system, which is part of what makes Romancing Saga 2 so unique. If you aren't familiar with what that mechanic means, it means that the game will span multiple generations. You choose who will be the next emperor, and you pass your powers on to them. It doesn't happen in a linear way, though. Inheritance only happens when the emperor's life points are reduced to 0, which happens when your character loses all their HP, and you have a certain amount of life points in total, which varies depending on your class and even things like gender and stuff. There are also options that can restore LP, but those are very rare. Or you can also choose to give up the throne, so you can abdicate. Any playable character can take up the mantle of Emperor. It's really cool that they decided to keep that system, and it'll be interesting to see how well it translates into a more modern version of the game. The thing that seems to have changed the most is the combat system. It was an iterated take on the turn-based battle system before that most people are used to from the SNES era. It still had some very unique things to it, but now it's moved to what is called a timeline-based system. For you people that are used to, a lot of tactical RPGs, it shows, your turn order at the top, and once you get to your turn, you do your action. And there are, of course, RPG staples like weaknesses, vulnerabilities, so you'll have to worry about things like that. The way that you get skills is by using weapons, and over time they will unlock. And so there are 8 different weapon types and 6 different types of magic. The unlocking system is called glimmers. So whenever you use abilities that have a light bulb next to them, it can activate an entirely new skill, and then you can choose to use that skill at any time. There are also united attacks, which you can think of as sort of a limit break that is triggered by targeting enemy weaknesses. So there's a lot to this system. It's very interesting combat system, and one that I think people really enjoy digging into. The way that the overall story works is that there is a mainline story, and that will play out regardless of the choices that you make. But you will be making choices, and one of those is you'll be going to different regions of the world and taking care of problems that those regions might have. Depending on what order you do that, different things can happen depending on the choices that you make when solving those problems. It could have drastic effects on the world. A good example of this that they gave is you can make a decision about the succession of a nearby kingdom, and that could either lead to them joining your cause after a successful succession, or it could lead to a civil war that causes the kingdom to entirely collapse. So there are big choices you're making. There are many different regions to explore. The overall premise is you as the emperor are attempting to unify all the different regions under your rule. Part of being the emperor is developing the capital city, and this is how you gain new weapons, armor, and spells. They've also added accessibility options, so different difficulty levels, things like that will make it more user-friendly than it was in the past. So people that found the game's previous difficulty a bit daunting, or, people that want a real challenge, they can set the difficulty all the way up. They've also added a new rearranged soundtrack, so you can switch from the new soundtrack to the old one on the fly, which is a really nice addition. They've done this in a couple different games. It seems like Square Enix has really figured it out when it comes to making game remakes like this, We all really love the games of the past, and being able to replay them in a new package like this, it's definitely special. It's just a special experience. Hoping it'll be as fun as I found the Star Ocean remake. I absolutely blasted through that one. That was just like 25 hours of my life gone in an instant. I'll be honest, I've never actually played any of the Romancing Saga games for a significant amount of time. I've hopped into them here and there and kind of tried them out, but never really gave any of them a proper shot. I played through Saga Frontier 1 and 2, and I really loved those games, but Romancing Saga always seemed a bit more difficult to get into due to the non-linearity, which is kind of interesting because I'm actually someone that really likes non-linearity in games, in Western RPGs. So hopefully this will be a really good experience for someone coming into it for basically the first time. And I think it will be. So I'm curious to see how many people are excited to play Romancing Saga 2. Is it something you're looking forward to now? Let me know in the comments if you're interested or have anything you're concerned about with the remake for people that have played the old games. Thanks for watching.